with the objectives. So after studying this unit, you will able to understand how to define and create a class in the Kotlin. Means what is class and what is the syntax to create a class in the Kotlin. After that, we will discuss about how to create and work with objects. What is object and how to create a object into the Kotlin. What is the syntax of the creation of object into the Kotlin, including the singleton object also. Then we will discuss about the access properties in Kotlin, including the mutable and immutable properties. So we can understand how to define access properties, right? How to define and access some properties of the class in the Kotlin. What is the syntax to define and access the property of the class in the Kotlin, including mutable and immutable properties. That is also we have discussed in the previous lecture. What is a mutable and what is immutable properties. These two objective, these will also we will cover in this lecture, like as what is the use of these keyword and how to refer to the particular current instance of the class. So these keyword is used to refer the current object into particular into the class. And then the last objective is how to use the super keyword to access the member and method of superclass. So suppose if you need to access the superclass constructor and superclass method, so by using that super keyword, you can access that. That we will discuss in this lecture. Right. Next. So this is the topic. These are the topics that we will cover in this lecture. Class in Kotlin means what is class and how to declare a class into the Kotlin. What is the syntax to define a class. What is object and how to create an object of the particular class. We will understand with the syntax. Then we will discuss about what is the class properties and how to access these properties by using that object. Method in the Kotlin, how to create a method of class into the Kotlin. These keyword will use to refer the current instance, means a current object, and super keyword will use to access the properties of superclass. That we will cover in today's lecture. So let's understand class first. So what is class? The class declaration consists of a class name, the class header specifying its type parameter and the primary constructor, and the class body surrounded by the curly brackets. So when you need to create a class, you just need to write a keyword name as a class, and after that you can declare a class by providing class name over there. So if you are creating a class, there will be a two section, a class header and class body. So when you declare a class name, it's called a class header, and when you provide the curly brackets after the class name, it means that this will be the body of the class. Both the header and the body are optional. If the class has no body, curly braces can be omitted. Okay, so these class header and class body both are optional. If you do not provide a class body, it is also okay. If you do not provide a body of the class by using that curly brackets, it can be also be done. In the Kotlin, before creating object, you must first define a class. So if you want to create an object, you first of all, you need to define a class. And you can create an object of that particular class. A class serves a template for creating an object. Okay, so this is what the basic difference between the class and object. Class is a virtual entity where object is a physical entity, right? I will give you the example of the class and object after some slides. Okay, so keep this point in your mind. What is class? So we can say a class is a virtual entity where the object is the physical entity. We can say like object is a blueprint of class also, right? To illustrate Think of a class as a blueprint of a house. It outlines details such as the number of floor, doors, window, etc. So what is class? A class is a blueprint of the particular object. Using the blueprint, you can then construct an actual house, right? So class is a blueprint of particular object. The house itself represents the object. So here the example is given like as a house. So if you just outline the details such as the floor, how many floors, how many doors are there, how many windows are there, etc. These are the outline details of the particular class, right? And when you create a house, when you create actual house, when you construct actual house, it means it is a object. So, since the same blueprint can be used to construct multiple houses, right? So if you have created one blueprint, after that you can create a multiple house by using that blueprint. You can create many objects from a single class. So if you have created a single class, you can create a multiple object of that particular class. So say for example, I'm giving you another example of a class. So as I told you, class is a virtual entity where object is a physical entity. And class has the properties and methods, right? So let's say, for example, I'm just giving you the example of pen. So pen is a class. I'm just telling you another example. Say, for example, trees. So tree is a class, right? Where if I want to create an object of that particular class, I can say that a lemon tree is the object of the tree class. Say, for example, car. So car is a class. Car is a class, right? And say for example the class name, the object name, say for example Rolls Royce. So Rolls Royce is the object of that particular class. Okay, say for example, let's say example of pen. So pen can be a class. So class has the properties and methods, right? So pen is a class. When I say a cello pen, so cello pen is the object of the pen class. I hope you are understanding these concepts in your mind. The difference between class and object. Class is a virtual entity where object is a physical entity. Class has the properties and method. By using the object of that class, you can access the properties and method. Right? This is a very simple concept about the class and object. But I am giving you the different example to understand it properly. Right? So class is a virtual entity where object is a physical entity. Class is a blueprint for the object. And object is actually actually a physical entity which are available into the physical world. So in the physical world, anything that we can touch is, we can say, an object. And if there is an object, so for that the particular class will be available as a virtually. Say for example, university. So university is the class. And let's say, for example, Modi University. So Modi University is the object of the university class. Right? I am giving you the different example to understand the concept of class and object. What is class and what is object in the real life? This object oriented fundamentally is totally connected to the human real life. So if you connect these object oriented fundamental with the real life, you can understand it very easily. Right? Say for example, laptop. So laptop is a class. And when I say a HP laptop, when I say a Lenovo laptop, so these two are the object of the laptop class. I hope you can understand this concept very well by using these all different examples. Next point. Let's say for example here, the example is given as a Kotlin syntax. Say for example, in the line number 1, I have created a class named as customer. So you can see there is a class created. The name of the class is customer. There is no any parameter and there is no any curly brackets. Right? So that customer class do not have any properties, any method and any variable. We have just created a class name is customer. You can create a class like this in the Kotlin. This is the Kotlin syntax. In the line 3, I have created another class. Say, for example, the class name is contact. And after that, I have written a round bracket, VAL ID colon integer, VAR name colon string. So difference between VAL and VAR, that is we have covered in our previous lecture. One is a mutable variable and one is a immutable variable, right? We have defined, we have understood this concept in our previous lecture. So if you don't know what is mutable variable and what is immutable variable, please refer my previous lecture. So here in this example, we have created a two class. First is a customer and second is a contact. Customer class is without any body and without any variable, without any properties and method. You can say a contact class that we have created with two variable, ID and a name. After that, in the line number 5, I have written the function main. So main function is a starting point of the Kotlin program execution. So the program execution will start from the main function. So you can see in the main function, I have written VAL customer1 equal to customer, and after that I have written round bracket start and round bracket over. It means that I have created an object of that particular customer class, and object name is customer1. And equal to this means it is calling a constructor. And keep this point in your mind also. When you create an object, it will call to the class constructor. We do not have defined the class we do not have defined the constructor of the particular customer class, but it will be invoked by automatically internally. So this bracket means a constructor. This bracket means a constructor. So when you create an object, it will call a constructor of that particular class automatically internally. If you have written constructor over here into the class, then it will call to that particular customer. And if you do not have written the constructor of the particular class, it will call to the automatically, and it will call to the internal constructor of the customer class. So here, by using that VAL keyword, we have created object of the particular customer class. I hope you are getting the point. In the line, you can say I have created another object by using VAR keyword. So using that VAL and VAR, you can create an object and you can create a variable also. That is also we have covered in the previous lecture about the variable. And currently we are focusing about the class and objects only. So to create a class and object, to create a class, there is a class keyword. And to create object, this is the syntax. By using VAL keyword and by using VAR keyword, you can create a object of the particular class. Say for example, in the line number 8, I have written VAR and then a object name contact equal to, I have called a constructor of the contact class with two parameter 10 and Atmiya. So 10 is assigned to that ID and Atmiya is assigned to that name. You can write you can write any string over here. Say for example, Modi University. If you write Modi University over here, then the value will be available into that name variable. Right? Now, what I have done in the line number 10, I have printed the value. Say for example, print ln contact dot id. So what is contact? That contact is our object. A contact is our object of the contact class, right? And by using dot operator, you can access the property of that particular class. So this contact class has two property, ID and name. And we are accessing that property by using dot operator and by using that object. So you can access the property of class by using object and dot operator. Keep this point in your mind also. You can access the property of the class by using object and dot operator. Same like here, I have written print ln statement in the line number 11, contact dot name. Okay, so I am accessing the name variable of that particular class. I am accessing the name variable of that particular class and printing onto the console. Right? Same to same over here. I am just printing the ID of the particular object into the console. I am printing the name of the particular object into the console. Now, what I am done? I am just changing the value of the particular property. So, for example, here I have written contact dot name. So I am just changing the value of the particular property. So for example, contact dot name equal to Android. Right? So what I have done, I am just changing the value from Modi University to Android over here. And now I am just printing it like contact dot name. I have written print ln contact dot name. It means that it will give me the output. Say for example, first of all, this line will print into the console contact dot id 10. This line will print into the console contact dot name will be, say for example, Modi University. And after that, I am just changing the value of the particular property of the class, of the object. And now I am printing the contact dot name. It means that it will print the Android into the console. Right? So this is what the basic concept of class and object in the Kotlin. Here I am just focusing onto the class now. We will discuss about the object later on. Right? So this is what you can create a class with parameter, without parameter, with curly brackets, without curly brackets, like this. Next point. So now the first point is declare a class named customer without any property or user defined constructor. A non-parameterized default constructor is created by Kotlin automatically. So as I told you, this customer class do not have any constructor which are written by the developer, right? So it will be written automatically into the bytecode. Second, declare a class with two property. Now you can say the contact class is declared with two properties, ID and name. Immutable ID and a mutable email. So you can say ID is immutable and a name is a mutable variable. And a constructor with two parameter, ID and email. So you can say like it is a constructor also. A class and constructor is defined in the Kotlin like this. This is class defined and this is constructor is also defined into the code. Third, create an instance of a class customer via the default constructor. Note that there is no new keyword into the Kotlin. So you can see if you want to create object of that particular class, there is no new keyword like as a Java. In the Java, if you want to create object of that particular class, there is a new keyword. In the Kotlin, there is no any new keyword. If you want to create object of that particular class, you can create object by using like VAL and VAR keyword. So there is no new keyword in the Kotlin. Create an instance of a class contact using the constructor with two arguments, access the property ID and update the value of the property email. That is what I have talking about this code, right? That is I have explaining to you. Next we are focusing about object. What is object? As I told you, object is a physical entity. अस्तित्व में जो कुछ भी है जो हम टच कर सकते हैं वो सब ऑब्जेक्ट है. ठीक है. So when a class is defined, it only provides the specification for the object. No memory or storage is allocated at this stage. So if you have created a class, no memory is allocated to that particular class into the computer. To use that member defined within the class, you must create objects. So if you want to access the property of that class, if you want to call a method of that class, so you need to create an object. Let's now create object of that lamp class. So for example, in this example, I have written the function main with arguments array string. And then we have created object of lamp class. VAL L1 equal to lamp, VAL L2 equal to lamp. So L1 is the object of lamp class and L2 is the object of lamp class. Okay, so you can understand like that. There is a lamp class and we have created two object of the lamp class. So this is what the object is. Class is object of blueprint, right? And object is what's actually available into the existence. It is physically availability, and by using that object we can access the property and method of that particular class. Class length is given over here. Say for example, I have created a class name as lamp. So I have created a property of that lamp class. Private var is on colon boolean equal to false. So by default all the lamp will be false. The default value that I have provided is false, right? So I have created a variable name is on, and the data type of this variable is boolean, and the value of this variable will be false by default. Now I have created two member function, turn on and turn off. Say for example, this lamp class has a property name as is on, and this lamp class has a member function, the name is turn on and turn off, right? So when this turn on method will be called, the value of this property will be changed to true. And when the turn off method will be called, the value of this is on property will be false. So it depends on that particular calling method. By using the object, you can call a method. So by using that L1 object, we can call a method. So for example, L1 dot on, L1 dot off, right? Turn on and turn off is the method that we have created. So let's discuss about properties now. What we have done till now, we have done with a class in Kotlin. What is class? How to create a class? And then we have understood about what is object and what is the use of object, how you can create object into the Kotlin. Now we will discuss about class properties. So in Kotlin, a class property refer to a variable that is associated with the class and the instance. So what is property? So when you create a class has its own particular property. Say for example, let's have the example of tree. Okay. So what will be the property of the tree class? The property of the tree class will be, say for example, leaf, fruits, and branches. Okay, so this will be the property of that particular class. Now you can understand this example, you can extend this example to any class. Say for example, let's say for example, car. Okay, so car has the different properties. Say for example, wheels is the property of the car class. Color is the property of the car class. Size is the property, can be the property of the car class. Height and width is the property of the car class. So if you are thinking about the class, so you can apply, you can create, and you can understand what is the property of that particular class. These properties define the characteristics of a particular object. So say for example, pen. So pen has its particular size, pen has its particular color, right? Height, width, color, size, these all can be the property of that particular pen class. They can be mutable or immutable. So if you are creating a property of that object, if you are creating a particular property of that class, that property can be mutable and this property can be immutable also. And they are used to hold the data that belong to a class or an object. So what will be the use of property? The property will hold the data that belongs to a particular object. Okay. So as I told you, class is just a blueprint of object. So class cannot store and hold the data. All the data will be stored in the object, and the object can access the property of the particular class. You can access properties and member function of the class by using dot notation. This is what I told you. If you have created a class, that class has its particular property. If you want to access the class property, you need to create an object, and by using that dot operator, you can access the property and you can call a method of the particular class. I hope you are getting the point properly. So class property can be of two types, as same as to variable. We have discussed this point in the previous lecture also, but at that time we were discussing about the variable. And in this point, we are discussing about the class property. So class property can be immutable, say for example, and mutable also. Right? First of all, we are discussing about immutable property of the class. It will define with the val keyword. If you are creating a property of the class using val keyword, it means it is an immutable property, making the property read only after initialization. Okay. The value of this property cannot be changed at runtime. Its value cannot be changed once it is assigned. Example, say for example, class car. In that class car, we have assigned two properties, val make colon string, val model colon string. So this class name as a car has a two property, make and model. Both property is immutable property because we have defined using val keyword. Next, you can create a property as a mutable also by using var keyword, defined with the var keyword, making the property mutable. If you define a class property using var, it is a mutable property. Its value can be modified after the initialize. So once the value is initialized to that property, it can be changeable. You can modify the particular value at runtime also. So this is what the class property is. Class properties can be of two types: mutable class property and immutable class property. If you want to define a mutable property, you can use var keyword, and if you want to define a class property as immutable, there is a val keyword. So what we have done till now, we have done about the class, we have done about the object, and we have done about the class properties. Next, it is a very important topic related to a class object and object oriented fundamental. It's called a method. So what is method is? The method basically a kind of function, you can say. In the Kotlin, a class function also referred to as a method. So like as C, if you create a function in the C language, it is working same like as a method. In the Kotlin, a class function, also referred as a method, are functions that are defined within the class and are used to describe the behavior of that action that object of that class can perform. So what is the main benefit of the method? Method is describing the behavior of the particular action. So say for example, let's say for example, tree class. Okay. So what will be the functioning of tree class? Tree can be grow. Okay. So grow will be the function of that particular tree class. Say for example, pen class. What is the use of pen class? Pen class is used to write, right? So the function can be written into pen class to write. To write will be the method of that particular pen class. Say for example, a car. Car is a class. And if you want to define the behavior of that particular class, and if you want to define the functioning of that particular class, you can write, say for example, to drive. So to drive will be the method of that car class. I have given you three examples of that particular, what is functions and what is method. This function can be operate on the properties of the class and modify the value or return the information about the object. This method, this function will use to operate the property of the class. So now you can understand that there is a class has the property, and if you want to change the value of that property, the method can be used. So method can be used to modify the value of that particular property, and it is also used to return some information from that particular object. Right? So by using the object, you are calling a method, and this method is returning some value to the particular object. So the method in the Kotlin can be used to define a functionality of that particular class, is used to operate, is used to modify the value of the property, and used to return the information about that object. So now let's see how to create a method. Say for example, here I have given the example of car class. Class car. In that class car, I have created three properties: variable brand colon string, variable model colon string, variable year colon integer. So this car class has three property: brand, model, and year. And in that car class, I have defined a function named as drive. Right? As I told you, the drive can be the functioning of the car. And in that function, in that method, I have written println statement, println vroom. Right? So when this method will be called, it will print the vroom into the console. So this is the function that I have defined over here. Function drive equal to round brackets, start round bracket over. There is no any parameter, right? This method is right without parameter and not returning any value. Curly brackets, start, curly brackets over, and in that scope, you can write the executable statement for that particular object. This will be executed for the particular object. By using the object, you can call a drive method. So what if you want to call this drive method, what you need to do is you just need to create an object of that car class and then call a method drive. Say for example, here function main is written. This is the class that we have created and this is the main method. I have created an object. Say for example, VAL C1 equal to car, Ford, Mustang 1969. So these three value is passing to the in the brand, in the model and year. So Ford is a brand, Mustang is a model and year is 1969. Now we are just accessing the property of that particular object. Println C1 dot brand plus we are just concatenating with the string. So plus is used to concat by the string in the Kotlin. Plus C1 dot model plus C1 dot year. So we are just accessing the value and we are printing into the console. Now it's about to call a function. How to call that function we have created over here in the class car. So by using that object C1 is our object. So by using that object, you can call a method. Say for example, C1 dot drive. So dot is a object. Dot is used to call a method by using that object. Right? I hope you are getting this example properly. Now let's discuss about these keyword. So what we have done till now, we have done with class, we have done with object, we have done with class property, and we have done with method of the particular class. So you can see like that, here I have created a method named as a drive, and I am calling this drive method by using C1 object. Now discuss about these keyword. In the Kotlin, these keyword allow us to refer to the instance of a class whose function we happen to the running. Additionally, there are other ways in which these expressions come in handy. So if you want to refer the current object, if you want to refer to the instance, current instance at that time, this keyword will be used. And there is another usage of this keyword also is refer to the current receiver and it call to the another constructor to the same class from the secondary constructor. If you want to call the primary constructor from the secondary constructor, so this keyword will be used in the Kotlin. So this is two usage of this keyword. It refers to the current object, current instance, current receiver, and it is used to call another constructor of the same class from the secondary constructor. Now let's say for example, there is a class named as counter. So counter is a class that we have created. In that class, there is a variable, there is a property, say for example, name as count. Variable count equal to 0. And there is a method, say for example, increment count. Now what I want to do this, I just want to use this count variable over here for the particular object. So say for example, the class is counter, so I can create multiple object of that counter class. And all object has the default value 0 as a count property. So when I call this method, it will increase the count plus equal to 2. So it will increase, this method will use to increase the 2 values into the count variable. So you can see over, this keyword is used over here. I am just referring to particular object by using this keyword. Now say for example, we have 3 objects of that counter class. Counter 1, counter 2 and counter 3. So when I call increment count method by using counter 1 object, it will only increment to the particular value to that particular object. Say for example, there is object name as counter 2. So when I call this increment count method by using that counter 2 object, so it will increase 2 value into that particular counter 2 object. This is why you can say like this keyword is used to refer current object, current reference. So this will use to refer, use to change, use to call a method, use to change the value of that particular of that particular object, or if that particular instance. So keep this point in your mind. This variable is used to refer current object, current instance and current state. Now let's discuss about super keyword. So super keyword can be used to invoke the member of the particular parent class in the child class. So there will be a inheritance, there will be a is a relationship between the class. So super keyword can be used to invoke the numbers, the member of the parent class in the child class. Now if you want to access the property of the child class, you can do it by using super keyword. So super keyword used to call a constructor of the super class. Super keyword is used to call a method of the super class, and super keyword is used to access the properties of super class also. By using that parent and child relationship, it is, we can say like in the inheritance, you can call a super keyword. Second point, super keyword can also be used to invoke the constructor of the parent class from the secondary constructor of the child class. Now, say for example, there is a parent class and parent is inheriting into the child class. And child class has the secondary constructor and parent class has the primary constructor. So you can call a primary constructor from the secondary constructor of the child class by using super keyword. It can also be used to resolve the overriding conflict. The super keyword is very useful to resolve that overriding conflict. When we inherit from the two parent class which consist of the method with the same name. Say for example, there is a child. This child has two parents and both the parent has the method with the same name. So both the same name method will inherited into the child class. So there will be a overriding conflicts. So if you want to resolve that conflict, you can use super keyword. Then we must specify which super class implementation that we want to use using the super keyword. Let's say for example, there is a class name as vehicle. So in the Kotlin, all the class will be final by default. It cannot be inherited defaultly like as a Java. In the Java, you can inherit a class. You can inherit any class into the child class. But in the Kotlin, all the class will be final by default. It means it cannot be inherited. If you want to make it open for the inheritance, you just need to write open keyword before the class. Say for example, over here, I have written open keyword. So open class vehicle. This vehicle class has a, say for example, three properties: name colon string, model number colon string, and color colon string. So there is vehicle class having three properties. And in that class scope, I have written number of seat equal to 3. So now you can see a vehicle class has 4 properties now: name, model number, color, and number of seats. And this vehicle class is open class. So when you make it open, you can inherit the class into the another class. And there is a function over here, function drive. But you can see over here, I have written open over here also. So in the Kotlin, all the method is final by default. Keep this point into your mind also. In the Kotlin, all the method will be final by default. If you want to make these method available to the child class, you need to open that method also. Otherwise, the child cannot access this method by using that object also. Child cannot inherit the final method. So if you want to make this drive method as a inheritable, you need to make open that particular method. So in the Kotlin, the class is final by default. In the Kotlin, the method is final by default. Right? Without opening it, without making a open, you cannot inherit into the child class. And in the drive method, I have written println statement, let's drive a vehicle. So when any object can call drive method, and it will print to the console, let's drive vehicle. Next. Say for example, here I have written a class name as a car with a variable. Say for example, 3 variable, a name, model number, and color. And by using that colon sign, you can inherit the class into the Kotlin. So I am just inheriting vehicle class into the car class with a name, model number, and color. Say for example, you can see in the vehicle, there is a name, model number, and color. Okay. And in the child class also, there is a name, model number, and color. And I am inheriting the vehicle class into my car class. It is possible. Why? Because we have opened that particular vehicle class. By default, it will be final. You need to make it open. And I have written a override function drive, say for example. So these override we need to write over here. Why? Because we are overriding the drive method into the car class. Say for example, there is also a drive method, and in the child class there is also a drive method. We need to override this drive class into the child class, and we can do that. Why? Because we have opened that particular function. By default, all the function of the class will be final by default in the Kotlin. So we make open that particular drive method, and I have written override function drive. In that method, I have written super.drive. So by using these super.drive, the drive method will be called, and it will be printed into the console, let's drive a vehicle, by using that super.drive. So super keyword is used to call a method of the super class. Here we have called that. In the car class, I have written another method. Say for example, visit places. So when I call visit places method by using that car object, it will be printed like let's visit some places in the new car. We have super dot number of seats. So here also I have used super keyword. Dollar brackets super dot number of seat, because number of seat variable is available into the super class. And I am accessing that super class variable into my child class. That is why I have written dollar curly brackets super dot number of seats and curly brackets over. So this is what the example of the super class that I have given to you. If you have any question, query, or any doubt in this topic, you can contact me. Right? So what we have done till now, let's go with the summary now. In Kotlin, a class serves a blueprint for creating objects. So what is class? We can say a class is a blueprint of the object. The class serves a blueprint for the object, defining the property and behavior through the method. So as we understanding now, class is the blueprint of the object. Class has the property, and class has the method. Okay, so a behavior and a functioning. An object is an instance of a class which can be created based on the class template. So object is the instance of the class, and class is the blueprint of the object which can be created based on the particular class template. Class properties are variable inside a class that store data, and they can be mutable or immutable. Okay. So class property is the variable. It is declaring into the class. It is used to store the data, and they can be, means a class property can be mutable and immutable also. A method in the Kotlin are function defined within the class to perform actions. What is method? A method is in the Kotlin are the functions which are defining into the class, and this method will use to perform the particular related actions. It interact with the class properties and provide functionality to that object. So what is the method? What is the use of method? It is used to interact the class property. It can use to change the value of that particular property, and it is used to return the value of that particular object also. These keywords refer to the current instance of the class, allowing access to its property and method. So what is the use of this keyword? This keyword is used to refer the current object, current instance of the class. And it is allowing you to access the property and the method of that particular current object. The super keyword is used to access the member of the superclass. So you can access the property of the superclass. You can call a method of the superclass by using super keyword. Typically in the context of inheritance, to call overridden method or reference parent class property. That is what I have told you in that example also. Now let's discuss some keywords about this unit. What is a class? A class in the Kotlin is a blueprint of the object defining their properties and method. What is object? Object in the Kotlin is an instance of a class which holds the data and can access the class method. So by using that object, you can access the property and assign the value to the particular object. It means it is holding, it is storing them some data and can access the class method. By using object, you can access the method of that class. Class properties. Class properties are variable. They define the characteristics of a class. So what is property? A property is a class variable which is used to define the characteristics of a class or its object and can be mutable or immutable. So class properties can be mutable, class properties can be immutable also. Method in the Kotlin. What is method? A method in the Kotlin is a function that define inside a class that define the behavior of the object. So you can say like a class property define the characteristics and a class method define the functioning of that particular behavior. It is defining the behavior of that particular object. These keyword refer to the current instance of a class. It is referring to the current instance, current object of the class, allowing access to its properties and methods. So for example, super keyword. The super keyword is used to access members and method of a super class in the inheritance. Right? So super keyword is used to access the member and the methods of the super class in the inheritance. Now let's have some MCQ questions. What is the purpose of a class in the Kotlin? So what is the main purpose of the class in the Kotlin? A is used to store the data. B is used to define the blueprint of creating object. C is used to store the method only. Or D is used to create a variable. So the right answer is B. The class is used to define blueprint for particular creating the object. Second, how do you create an object from a class in the Kotlin? So what is the syntax to create a object into the Kotlin? A, class, object name. B, object name, round bracket start and over. C, new object name round bracket start and over, and D, object name dot create method. So by using that object name and round bracket, you can create a object. Now, third question. What is the main difference between class and object? As we discussed, let's understand, let's provide the answer of this question. A class is an instance of object. An object is a blueprint for creating a class. A class defines properties and method, while object is an instance of a class. An object are immutable, while a class are mutable. So right answer is a C. A class defines properties and method, while object is an instance of a class. Fourth, how do you define a mutable property in a Kotlin? If you want to define the mutable property, then what is the syntax? A, VAL, property name, colon type. B, VAR, property name, colon type. C, FUN, property name, colon type. And D, const, property name, colon type. So how can you define the mutable property in the Kotlin? The right answer is B. By using VAR keyword, you can create a mutable property of that class. So right answer is B. What does this keyword refer to the Kotlin? What is the use of this keyword? The superclass of the current class, the current instance of the class, the method being called, and the dog instance of the object. So what is the use of this keyword? This keyword is used to refer current instance, current object of that particular class. So right answer is B. This keyword is used to refer the current instance, current object of the class. Question number 6. In which scenario would you typically use the these keyword in Kotlin? At what point? At which scenario you need to use the these keyword? A, to refer to the parent class. B, to refer to the variable in the current method. C, to refer to the current instance of the class when there is a ambiguity. D, to call a function from another class. So the right answer is C. So this keyword used to refer the current instance of a class when there will be the ambiguity also. So suppose there is a variable in the class property and the variable in the class method also with the same name. So you can differ the class property and method property by using this keyword. Sven, what is the purpose of super keyword in the Kotlin? What is the use of super keyword? A, to define the method in the subclass. B, to call the constructor of the superclass. C, to access the member of method of the superclass. And D, to create a new class. So right answer is C. The super keyword is used to access the member or the method of the superclass. That is also we have discussed. How do you define method inside a class? If you want to create a method inside a class, what is the syntax? A, function method name colon type. B, method name round bracket and curly brackets. C, function method name round bracket and curly brackets. D, def method name round bracket and curly bracket. So right answer is C. By using that function keyword and a method name round bracket and curly bracket, you can define a method in the class. Question number 9. How can you access a property from a superclass in Kotlin? So there is a, say for example, there is a superclass, and now if you want to access the property of that superclass, how you can use that? A, using super.property name. B, using this.property name. C, using class.property name. D, using object.property name. So the right answer is A. You can use the property of the superclass by using super.property name. Last question. How does inheritance work in the Kotlin, and how does the super keyword related to it? I have explained this point to you guys also. Inheritance allow a class to extend another class, and super access the member of the parent class. B. Inheritance prevent access to the parent class members. C. Super used to define new method in the subclass. And D. Inheritance only work with method, not properties. So the right answer is A. Inheritance is used, it allowed to a class extend another class, and the super accesses members of the particular parent class. So A is the right answer. This is the self-assessment question that I have written over here. You can assess by yourself. Say, for example, what is the purpose of the class in Kotlin? How do you create an object from a class in the Kotlin? What is the difference between a class and object in the Kotlin? What are the class properties in the Kotlin and how they are defined? How do you declare a mutable property? What is the role of these keyword into the Kotlin? In what scenario you can use these keyword into the Kotlin? What is the purpose of the super keyword into the Kotlin and how it can be used? You can provide examples over here also. How can you define a method inside a class and how do you call it? How does inheritance work into Kotlin and how does the super keyword related to it? So this is what we have done with today's lecture. What we have learned in this lecture, let's understand. In this lecture, we have done about the class, object, class properties, class methods, this keyword and super keyword. So class in the Kotlin that we have covered with the example of these. And then we have covered what is object, what is the use of object, how can you define the object, and how can you access the property of the class by using that object, and how can you call the method of that particular class. Then we have about class properties. What is class properties? You can access the property of the class by using dot operator. The class properties can be of two types, mutable properties and immutable property. I have given with example. Method, you can create a method and you can call a method also. A method is used to change the value of the property of the particular class and it used to describe the behavior of that object also. So this is the syntax how you can create a method of that particular class. And this is what the calling. You can call a method by using object and dot operator. This keyword is used to refer the current object, current instance of the class. This is the example of this keyword. Then we have learned about super keyword. Super keyword used to call a super class constructor. Super keyword used to call the super class method, and super keyword used to access the property of the super class. Right? Here I have given the example of vehicle and car class. By using that super keyword, I have called a drive method, and by using that super keyword, I have accessing the property of the super class. So this is what we have done, we have covered, we have learned in these unit: class, object, class property, method, this keyword and super keyword with example. If you have any question, any query, any doubt, you can contact me anytime. That's all from my side. Thank you all.